Today we're going to be trying Yellowstone's frozen meal, specifically Rip's ranch hand, cheese, and beef pasta bake, which is insanely priced in my opinion, but we're going to go into it anyway. The first thing I want to mention though is that this 14-ounce meal right here was $5.92 at Walmart, so essentially $6, which is very high for a frozen meal, especially one so simple as beef and pasta bake. Beef and pasta is essentially the cheapest ingredients you can get. That's why a lot of frozen meals feature beef and not chicken, for example, is because it's cheaper than chicken. It's cheaper than steak. It's cheaper than everything else. Beef is the good filler, but I got to give them points for this. The ingredients list is not very, it's not full of fillers and stuff like that. It is pretty simple, straightforward ingredients for the most part, that are real ingredients and not necessarily like, we're not talking like a banquet quality meal here. There is quality in terms of the ingredients based on paper, on the list. It's really the question of the taste of it, but this thing is going to have to blow me away to be worth $6 in my opinion, specifically because of the Yellowstone name. That's what's costing money. I don't know the financials, but the fact that this is based on Yellowstone and, you know, has the picture and stuff. What's the quote over here? Ride like it's your last time, because one day you'll be right, from Rip. I've never seen Yellowstone in my life. I have no idea what it's about. Well, I mean, I have a vague idea. I know it's like a modern Western kind of thing, but I really don't know. I know there's like 10 spinoffs. My dad watches it. He tells me to watch it. He says it's a good show. It might be. I don't know, honestly. I don't watch a lot of TV. Maybe I should watch it just, you know, to connect with something with my dad. Maybe that would be a good idea. Let me know if you've seen the show. But in correlation to the frozen product, what it means is that it costs more money. Because they're using the name of something to sell this product, and therefore the creator of Yellowstone, or, you know, Paramount networks down here and Spike, they're going to be getting a good percentage of the sales of this product, which is actually made by Foundry Foods Inc. from Salon, Ohio, which I looked into a little bit vaguely. I didn't really do too much research on them. They seem to be kind of an independent, like, frozen food think tank, which I didn't know was a thing, but I guess it is. And they just like come up with frozen foods to market based on IPs, it seems like. Like they did the Jurassic World like dino nuggets, which I think are still around. Never tried them, but I've seen them on the shelves many times, and I think that they're still around despite the fact that Jurassic World, you know, fell off hard. So, you know, maybe that's a good sign. Maybe it's a sign that it's quality, but who can say? We're just going to have to microwave it and find out. This is getting to be kind of a long intro, but you essentially just vent this, cook for 4 minutes, stir, cook for 2 minutes, and then you're done. Let me take it out of the box to show you what it looks like, and then I'll pop it in the microwave. This is what we got. I mean, honestly, this doesn't look terrible from the perspective of frozen food. As somebody who's seen many frozen meals, this looks more legit than most. Like, the fact that you can see the ingredients and everything separated, and this is not a foggy plastic, and you can see all the individual components, and it's not kind of a mush, and it's not pre-mixed, actually does give me a little bit of hope. Again, I don't know if I have hope that I want to pay $6 for this again, but, you know, maybe at least I won't feel too ripped off by the end of this. So let's microwave it and find out. Well, I have to say I'm actually fairly impressed by the way this looks and smells. I haven't tasted it yet. There's the finished product. I'm trying not to spill it, but you can see it's actually got a little bit of a kind of greasy, oily layer, which might be a turnoff, but to me it says that there's real food in here. There's a layer of oil, which indicates to me a level of quality that's actually a little bit higher than a cheaper frozen meal, because the cheaper frozen meals, the meat is so not meat that you don't get that kind of oiliness in the meal, essentially. So what I'm afraid of and also excited about here, because this smells amazing, is the prospect that this is actually great. That I think that might be the case. I don't want to hype myself up too much. I'm going to take a bite now, but I'll get into the reasons why. But it worries me that I might be giving this a 5 in a second, but we'll find out. Let me take a bite before I say anything, because smells and everything can be deceiving, but this is definitely giving off all the vibes of quality, which is nice, I guess. Yeah, that's pretty good. Let me take another bite. That's actually damn good, honestly. Yeah, this is a shock to me in a couple ways. Now, I'm going to try to explain my feelings on this, but before I do, for anybody who's actually curious, this is an easy 5 out of 5. If you're looking for a frozen meal to buy, and this is in any way interests you, like this type of like pasta bake kind of thing, then you can go ahead and safely buy this because it's great. The only problem comes from, of course, the price, which is something I talk about a lot. Prices are important to me, especially in the frozen food area, because a lot of people eat frozen food, and the majority of people who eat frozen food, I don't know the statistics, but I would assume it's on the lower financial spectrum. It's mostly poorer people who are eating frozen foods. But recently, in terms of fast food and frozen food, the trend has become less of an appeal to cheap customers, which is where they used to aim, right? That's why there used to be a lot of cheaper frozen meals and value menu stuff, and more to appeal to the kind of middle class, not necessarily wealthy, but the kind of people who could spend $6 on a frozen meal and not question it, essentially. That's the audience they're going for with this, and they're tying it in with Yellowstone. I don't know this for sure, but I assume, based on the fact that my dad loves the show, that it's a show that skews kind of towards an older audience, and the fact that it's a Western, of course, skews it more towards an older audience who will have more generally disposable income and would be willing to pay $6 for a frozen meal, because a lot of them don't cook. I mean, my dad, he can cook a few things really well, to be honest, but it's like a list of 5 things. Outside of that, it's fast food and frozen food. That's how we go. And there's probably a good demographic of people who can spend $6 on a Yellowstone meal, no problem. But in my opinion, I don't like it. I don't like the way that the market is moving. It seems clear that customers like me and the majority of people who, live paycheck to paycheck or whatever, or even worse, are getting priced out of even the most basic things, like a frozen meal, Now, if you want a frozen meal, you have to pay more for it to get something worse. Banquet meals suck. They used to be all right. Most frozen meals just generally seem to have stagnated or gotten worse, essentially, over the last 10 years or so. And then we have this, which comes out and is real food, decent taste, decent quality, and all that good stuff, but it just costs $6, which, of course, better quality and all that stuff should cost more money. I understand the concepts. I'm not stupid, but it's a little bit too much more. That's my problem. Like, when you have to make the calculation in your head, and this is a realistic scenario for me, of getting 2 or 3 frozen meals of lesser quality for the same price as this one meal of good quality, and I have to make the other decision pretty much every time, solely based on the amount of food I'm getting, because that's the budget concern I'm faced with, essentially, and a lot of people are, and this is just out of reach, essentially, for me. Like, buying I like this and I want to try the other ones, and I might, but they're going to be a treat, essentially, you know? This frozen pasta bake is a treat. And that very sentence, you know, boggles my mind, that the fact that buying this frozen meal is something I consider not accessible for as an everyday meal is mind-boggling. It's crazy to me that that's the situation. Now, if this was, let's say, $4.92 instead of $5.92, I think I could be more convinced to put it into the rotation, so to speak, to maybe buy one or two a week or whatever. Not even that many, probably, but to buy a few to have as backups, to have as frozen meals on occasion, I would consider it at like $4.92. But $5.92 is just, it's just past the point that it's acceptable, I guess, for a frozen meal. Especially when I consider the competition. I mean, for the most part, it's bad, which is why the fact that this is good quality is there. There's only one company, I would say, that hits the quality to price ratio well. And the problem with them is they only have like 4 meals, like 4 meals, and they're not very well stocked. They're kind of hard to find, and that's Devour. And they have different meals at different places. Like Target has one Devour meal that I can't get at Walmart, and Walmart has one I can't get at Target, and things like that. And again, there's only like 5 or 6 varieties as far as I've ever seen of Devour. But those are generally my favorite because they tend to be in the $4 to $4.50 range, but they are, like this Yellowstone product, real food. And there's a noticeable jump in quality from something like a Banquet or a Marie Callender's or whatever to a Devour. Like, it feels like it's the next level, but they managed to keep the prices to $4 to $4.50 generally. Those could go up, of course. You know what year it is. It's 2024. But I feel like that's the sweet spot. Like, I feel good about buying a Devour meal. It feels like I feel like I got my money's worth when I pay $4.50 for a good Devour meal, whereas when I pay $6 for this, I feel like I paid too much, even though I do enjoy it, and I'm about to enjoy the rest of it. And it is a hearty meal. It's 770 calories. It does have 37 grams of protein, so on that front, it's going to fit in for a lot of people who have the income to make it work. I just wish, honestly, like in my ideal world, this wouldn't be called Yellowstone's Rips Ranch Hand Pasta Bake. It would just be another company without the marketing burden and the, you know, payment burden of a brand like Yellowstone, and they could charge less, and we could all, you know, it could be a little bit more accessible. But as it is, it really feels like it's targeting a crowd of higher income people, which again, I guess is fine to a degree. It's just worrying from my perspective, that's all. So I'll give this a 5. I'm going to give it a 5 because it is good. And I don't think, and I think $5.92 is a bit too much to pay for it, but if you're in the position to where it doesn't really matter to you, to be honest, it is probably worth it. So that's where we get into a conundrum, because it's really good. I'm just more against the price being so high because I know it can be cheaper, and it's not because it's Yellowstone. That's all. So yeah, check it out. Yellowstone Rips Ranch Hand Pasta Bake. If you have $6 to spend on a frozen meal, this is a good one. This is a great one. So that's that, and I will see you all next time.